Sam Houston State, the Bearkats. All right, look, is KC Keeler a genius, or was that maybe a mistake redshirting so many of those guys last year? I mean, obviously we will see, but whew, let's get into it. All right, pulling up the numbers here. Returning production, they're number 13 in the country. That ain't bad. Number 32 on offense, number 7 on defense. Uh, they got a lot of guys that are very, very familiar with what they're doing. The numbers that you see on the screen are their FCS numbers from last year mixed in with, of course, all of the FBS numbers from this year. So just something to pay attention to as you're looking. Um, you look at that PPA margin, number 100. Their offense was putrid last year, just awful. But hey, I think that's going to get better because they got Grant Gunnell coming in. They got some other guys that can play quarterback, but obviously we'll see. There's not a lot to take away from last year's numbers, really, because they got so many guys that are going to be a little bit different this year. Um, but that offense, I think, is still, we'll see what ends up happening with it. Uh, the projected record this year is 3.4 and 8.6. The win total sits at 4. It is juiced to the under. Minus 120 to go under, minus 110 to go over. Let's take a look at this. They were number 32 in turnover margin, number 35 in penalties per game. So the foundation of this team is pretty good. They're well coached. You know this, but they were not super experienced last year. Let's start on offense. You lost 2 starting offensive linemen from last season. The 3 returning quarterbacks were under 50% completion, but they did bring in Xavier Ward. They brought in Grant Gunnell as transfers. I think the quarterback position is going to be upgraded. The question on offense, of course, really for the whole team, do the red shirts take a while to knock the rust off? They lost their running back that had the most carries and the wide receiver that had the most targets. I think they still got some dudes. They still got dudes. On defense, Clayton Carlin, Joe Morris, co-DCs here. They're returning 9 of their top 11 tacklers on defense. They brought in 3 defensive line transfers, but they are losing 50% of their quarterback pressures from last season, and that was a pretty good defense last year. I mean, you look at it, number 11 in defensive PPA per drive allowed last year, number 14 rushing success allowed, number 9 in passing success allowed. They weren't great at stopping explosive plays. It is what it is. You kind of live with that sometimes. The secondary looks to be pretty strong and experienced this year. They only gave up 4.7 yards per play last year overall as a defense. This team this season is expected to be a favorite or a projected favorite in 4 games. They got 5 toss-ups. Again, that's games that the projected spread is within 1 score. Let's look at the keys to the season on this. Again, the win total sits at 4. Will take me off the screen. They redshirted 15 players in the final FCS season. So obviously you're not going to be as good when you are, on purpose taking guys off the field. Keeler won the 2020 FCS title, started the fall season 11-0 before they lost in the playoffs. This guy knows what he's doing. We have seen FCS programs come into the FBS and be successful immediately. This is not the most difficult schedule in the world. However, bring me back up here. At BYU, Air Force, at Houston, Jacksonville State, at Liberty, at New Mexico State to start things off. Where's your warm-up? Where are you supposed to be able to get that first win? Like maybe Jacksonville State coming to Sam Houston State, but with Rich Rodriguez, that was a pretty good team last year. Then you got to play at Liberty. And again, you've already heard how much I love New Mexico State. I got 3 wins in the middle of the season. Florida International, UTEP, Kennesaw State. I think they'll beat Middle Tennessee at the end of the year. I don't think they win in Ruston. I don't think that they win at Western Kentucky. I got them 4-8 this year. This is going to be an interesting one. The ceiling for this team, I think, is 6-6. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to acclimate to FBS, but obviously we'll see. The floor for this team, I think, could be pretty low. Grant Gunnell, while he's just been all over the place, right? I mean, he's transferred to a ton of places. He was at Memphis for a little bit. He went to Arizona. He couldn't get on the field at any of these places. He was dealing with injuries, all that kind of stuff. We'll see what Xavier Ward is. But I think the floor could be 2-10. If this offense is not good in that league, Yikes. It's going to be crazy. So 4-8 record prediction for me on Sam Houston State. This one's going to be interesting to watch this year.
Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Make sure and follow me on Twitter @GaryWCE. If you want to toss in a question, you can email me Gary@winningcureseverything.com. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.